So now I've got my faces here for the top and the bottom, and I've got four-sided faces all around, but I need now to get even more faces so I can bring in the convexity for the anterior portion of the vertebral canal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the multi-cut tool from the modeling toolkit. I'm now going to use the multi-cut tool. One thing you want to check before you use this is if you click on multi-cut and scroll down to see there are certain options, I want to make sure that ignore back faces is not selected. Okay, so what this will let me do, I'm going to click on the top window, hit the space bar so I have that full view, go back to object mode, and I'm going to hold down the X key, which means I'm going to snap to the grid and come in. Oops, I'm not getting my multi-cut tool. Hold on. Okay. There we go. See, the icon has changed a little bit. So I'm coming in 3 units. I'm holding the X key, so I snap and snap. So I get a straight line. And if you notice, when I push that X key up here, let me hit return for a second. When I push the X key, this little icon lights up, which basically means snap to grid. This one would be snap to curve. This one would be snap to point. This one, snap to projected center, which honestly I haven't used before, but it may be great. Snap to view planes, and make the object live, which is something we will use later. But these three, grid, curve, and point, are the most frequent ones we're going to use. I'm going to do the same thing then. Hold down the X key, snap, come in, same number of units, snap, return. Okay, so now, if I did this right, see now because I took that, because I left this unselected, this ignore back faces unselected, what that means is when I made a cut like this, it went through all the faces. This is what it's calling the back face. Notice when I'm looking at the top, the bottom is the back face. It's not in view. By ignoring, if I left that on, it would only cut the top. So by turning that off, it cut through every face that is in that plane. Okay. The next thing I want to do then is I'm going to go and select edges. And I'm going to drag a box, and you can see on from the perspective window what that's doing. It's getting all of those planes, and I'm going to hit the W key for move, translate, and I'm bringing that in. And if I hit the number 3 for preview, you can see I'm getting that kind of shape I want for the anterior canal. Now, the consequence of what we've done is in the opposite end, the anterior end, we're not getting a shape. We're kind of losing, we're getting a flattened shape here. So I'm going to go back to number 1. Again, go to edges, drag a box, and now I have the opposite side. And now I'm going to pull those out a little bit, and I'm going to hit R for scale and scale them together. Okay, and now you see again I'm getting back to what I want. Now depending on how much detail you want to add here, there's other things you can do. You could take, if I say edge and double click, now that gives me an edge loop. When I double click an edge, I get the full edge loop. I could raise this up a little bit, take the bottom one, do this, the opposite, and now I've kind of got a little more of a shape of the body of the vertebra. I might take this edge, the one that's going transversing this, move it back, take the same multi-cut tool and pick another area. snap again, snap, return. Now, the reason I did that is I can make this wider and control a little bit more, how much I want, what the shape basically is of this body. So some of the bodies will be longer and skinnier, some will be fatter and rounder. And in this case, I can, modify this. The thing I want to do is look back at my chart and see what is the diameter. And if I remember correctly, it's basically like 10 by 10. So we want to make these 20 units wide by 20 units tall. But we'll have to check in the chart. But anyway, that's your body now. And again, if you want to get real fancy, one last thing you could do is you could do the same thing. Instead of using the multi-cut tool this time, I'm going to use this thing called, under Mesh Tools, I'm going to use the Insert Edge Loop. And I'm going to go back to number 1, and I'm going to drag an edge loop very close to that top and bottom edge. And if I hit 3, you'll see now what I'm starting to get is a little bit of a lip there, which is what I want, a little bit of an edge. So what I could do, go back, and I'm going to take the edge, I'm going to take just that top edge loop, and I'm going to expand it just a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing with the one on the bottom, I'm sorry. Okay. And then I'm going to take the one close there, and I'm going to contract that a little bit and move it down. Okay. And the same thing with the one up top. Contract just a little bit. So I'm using that yellow cube, which means I'm scaling in all 3 axes simultaneously. And then when I hit 3, see, I've kind of got a little more of that kind of loop there. Only problem with that is it really doesn't make this kind of edge here. And so we'd end up fussing around with eliminating some of that so that we don't want that edge inside the canal. But anyway, that's the way you could start. You could then get a little fussier and pull things back and forth so you got instead more of a smooth surface there. Okay. And keep in mind too, this is a schematic, so it's not designed to be perfect. It's to represent a collection rather than be accurately representing one single. So there we are.